Hello everyone, my name is Lydia Trejo and I am one of the consultants with Coastline EAP. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about time management and why good time management skills are essential to your professional success. I'd like to remind you that this is an interactive and participatory webinar and would encourage you to have a pen and paper ready as we will be reviewing some worksheets along the way. Once again, thank you for joining me and let's get started. How often do you think that there is never enough time or that you have way too much to do but not enough time to do it? Does this sound like something you would say? Too little time and too much to do is a common condition that many of us struggle with, and good time management skills are essential to help us overcome this condition. Good time management skills can benefit you in all areas of your life. It can help you stay on top of your tasks and get more done. It can mean that you're spending your time in the right places and on the right things. And it means that you know your priorities, your obligations, and your schedule. Good time management simply means deciding what you want to get out of life and efficiently pursuing those goals. We know that turning time management skills into habits will take time and effort, but it's definitely worth it. And here is why. How you manage your time can affect all areas of your life, not just your work life. For those of you who struggle with time management, you may at times feel overwhelmed and stressed because there doesn't seem to be enough time in the day to get things done. If you're often feeling anxiety or feelings of failure, increasing stress due to your workload, maybe inefficiency in getting your work done, or feeling that you're often missing deadlines, or maybe feeling that you're producing lower quality work, you may possibly be struggling with the negative effects of poor time management. The good news is that with a few of the techniques and practices you will be learning today, you will soon be benefiting from the positive effects of good time management. We've learned that good time management skills lead to less stress and anxiety, getting more work done with less effort, having more free time and less wasted time, and an increase in creativity and an increase in achieving your goals in a timely manner. In our previous slide, we discussed the benefits of good time management and the negative effects that poor time management can have over us. We know that using time effectively is actually a matter of your own personal management. Time goes by at the same rate no matter what you do. You can't speed it up or slow it down. Unlike the other resources that you manage, there is no way to control time. The best that you can do is take charge of yourself in the framework of time and invest yourself in those things that matter the most in your life. Let's get started today with learning and integrating new time management skills. The purpose of our training today is to help you, 1, assess your current time management skills, 2, help you set clear and concise goals, 3, prioritize your tasks, 4, plan your time, and 5, help you overcome time challenges like procrastination, interruptions, and meetings. Let's start first by assessing your personal time management skills. So how well do you manage your time? Which of the following best describes you? Are you often feeling stressed about your workload and meeting deadlines? Do distractions and interruptions keep you from working on important tasks? Are you unable to keep up with your emails and telephone calls? Do you often feel that there is never enough time? Or maybe you're the opposite. Do you set time aside for planning and scheduling? Do you prioritize your to-do list and projects? Do you have a system for managing emails and phone calls? Do you feel in control of your time most of the time? So which one describes you best? Maybe you're a combination of both. In order to help you better assess your time management skills, let's take a look at worksheet number 1. It's a brief 10-question assessment form, and it's only going to take you a couple of minutes to fill it out. Simply read each statement and choose the rating that best applies to you. The assessment is also very simple to score. For any items where you rated yourself for 1 or a 2, you may want to consider trying out some of the skills that we learned today. I'm putting the worksheet number 1 on the screen. As I said, you can at this point pause the webinar so you can read through the first 3 questions, and I will now scroll down so that you can read questions 4 through 8. Again, you can pause the webinar at this time, and lastly, I will scroll down so that you can read the remainder of questions. Again, take your time, and when you're ready, you can press play, and we will go back to the webinar. Now that you have a better idea of how well you manage your time, let's take a look at the challenges that can get in the way of efficiently managing your time. We know that especially in the workplace, time is a precious resource that needs to be carefully balanced. Unfortunately, there are many challenges that get in the way of effectively managing your time. Some of these challenges are external. Things like meetings, telephone call interruptions, excessive paperwork, and an inflexible work schedule constantly cause you to juggle your priorities. Other challenges are internal. Personal limitations like procrastination, poor planning, or poor organizational skills, a lack of focus or discipline, or even poor communication with your colleagues can get in the way of properly managing your time. Today's training will address each of these challenges, and you will learn proven skills to meet these challenges head-on. In our previous slide, we discussed that a lack of planning and focus are internal challenges to good time management. If you struggle with a clear sense of focus and you struggle to prioritize your workload, then setting goals will provide the direction you need. By setting goals, you will know where the bulk of your time each day should be focused. You will be able to prioritize your workload based on your goals and the goals of your company and manage your time better while at work. Your goals become more powerful when you put them into writing. The more specific, realistic, measurable, and achievable that your goals are, the greater your chance of reaching them. You want to create SMART goals. SMART goals can be used in both our professional and personal lives. Let's use an example that most of us can relate to. You know that time after the holidays in the first week of January when we all want to make changes and improve ourselves? How often have you or a loved one said, "I am going to work out more this year"? Well, in order to increase your likelihood of success, make this goal a SMART goal. Let's be specific. What does workout really mean? How about, I am going to take short walks during my lunch hour, and in 2 months' time, I want to be walking for 30 minutes, 4 out of 5 days. That's very specific. It's measurable, it's certainly achievable, it's relevant to the original goal, and it gives me an achievable time frame. Write your goals down and refer to them often. Review your goals regularly, using them to plan your weekly and daily accomplishment objectives. In both your personal and professional lives, decisions are easier to make when you know what you want. You will also be able to prioritize your tasks when you have clear goals. As I said earlier, most of us feel like we have too much to do and not enough time to do it all. This often leaves you feeling overwhelmed and stressed. Learning how to prioritize a schedule for optimal time management can help you gain control of your life by focusing on what's important and getting it done. I encourage you to make a list of all of your tasks and rank them in order of importance. Identify the urgent versus the important. The next step is to see if you have any tasks that need immediate attention. We're talking about work that, if not completed by the end of the day or in the next several hours, will have serious negative consequences. Things like a missed client deadline, a missed publication, or a release deadline. Next, I encourage you to assess the value. Look at your important work and identify what carries the highest value to your job organization. As a general practice, you want to recognize exactly which type of tasks have top priority versus others. For example, focus on client projects before important work or internal work, blogs before website edits, answering customer support tickets before writing training materials, and so on. Another way to assess value is to look at how many people are impacted by your work. In general, the more people involved or impacted, the higher the stakes. Be flexible and adaptable. Uncertainty and change is a given. Know that your priorities will change, and sometimes when you least expect them to. But, and here's the trick, you also want to be focused and committed to the tasks you're committed to doing right now. And accept that you may not finish everything. The skills that I've just reviewed are put to use on your daily to-do list. A sample of 2 to-do lists are found on worksheet number 2. The to-do list is an easy and effective time management tool. To use it effectively, you typically complete it the day before. In the last 10 or 15 minutes of your workday, you prepare your next day's to-do list. In it, you will list those things that absolutely must get done. Those are listed first. Then you list those that should get done, and lastly, those that you would like to complete but can get rolled over to the next day if necessary. Remember that you may not finish everything, but the most important things did get done. Before we move on to our next skill, take a couple of minutes now to jot down a couple of things on your to-do list. And I'm going to bring it up on worksheet number 2. Use the top to-do list to help you sort how important your tasks are, and the bottom list to rank them in order of how you want to get them done. And remember to add in the estimated time that each will take you to complete, because after all, there's only so many hours in the day. Once you're ready, you can return to the webinar. We talked about the importance of organizing your priorities, but what about the importance of sorting and recognizing what is and isn't a priority? An effective method of organizing and sorting your priorities is the time management grid. There are 4 quadrants organized by urgency and importance. Let's briefly review the quadrants so you can begin to organize and sort your own tasks. Quadrant number 1 talks about the important and the urgent. This is usually the stuff that cannot always be foreseen or avoided, like a vital customer call, a crisis, or a pressing problem, but can also be things that you left to the very last minute, like a major deadline. Since it's important and urgent, these tasks are what you will have to do immediately. Do your best to manage crisis and pressing problems. Quadrant number 2 is the important but not urgent. This is where you want to live with your time. Focus activities are the things that move you closer to your goals and have the greatest implication for you on the long term. These are things like professional development, planning, defining your contribution. These are things where you want to focus in on strategies and values. Third, you have the urgent but not important. Avoid interruptions, busy work, low priority emails, and other people's minor issues. Be careful here. All the emails, the Facebook messages, the text, most of your time, you'll finish your day simply wondering where your time went. Why? Because it was spent on the short-term stuff, not the stuff that is aligned with your goals. Avoid it taking up too much from your time and taking you away from the things that are important. And lastly, the not important and the not urgent. Sure, we all need some entertainment to escape from the stresses of work and everyday life. But when these things start eating up your precious time, it becomes more of a problem. Limit these tasks and do them later after your important work is done. I want you to now take a look at worksheet number 3. It's an empty time management grid. Take a minute and write down one thing in each of those grids that applies to you. Can you identify and organize your priorities into each of these quadrants? If you can, that's definitely a good step towards good time management. Again, you may feel free to pause the webinar at this time so you can fill in the time management quadrant. When you're ready, you may press play and return to the webinar. Now that you've organized your priorities, let's create a time budget to define the amount of time you dedicate to each project or task. We all have a limited amount of time to work with. Just like your money, time is a finite resource. Budgeting your money is a great way to ensure you spend your money where your priorities are. And similarly, budgeting your time can ensure that you spend your time appropriately on your important and high priority tasks. A time budget is an easy and practical guide on how you want to invest your time. You define the ideal amount of time to invest in each of your important work areas, and then you stick to that budget for the duration of its allocated time. Here's an example of a middle-level manager's time budget. As you can see, the issues or projects with high priority are listed at the top and typically consume a high amount of time. The lower priority issues are listed towards the bottom, and although they can also consume a significant amount of time, they are not quite as important. Also remember to build in time for miscellaneous or margin time. If you have margin time built into your time budget, you can manage the unexpected and the interruptions that come throughout the day without being totally derailed. and you know that you will still have plenty of time to get everything done that you needed to get done. Another key to better time management is to find your high energy periods, otherwise known as your prime time, and schedule complex tasks when you are likely to be at your best. Plan ahead to use your high energy times for those important tasks that require greater effort and attention. And you want to save your routine work for your slow energy periods. Find ways to stretch your periods of greatest energy. In our previous slide, I encouraged you to capitalize on your prime time. But really, what is prime time? Well, prime time means that we all have a time of the day when we are at our most productive. For most people, this is limited to about 3 hours, and it comes at different times of the day for different people. This is the time when you have the most energy, the time when you can really get things done. This is called your prime time, and identifying it and protecting it is a critical component to time management. Ask yourself these questions to help you identify your prime time. When are you most alert? When is your mind the clearest? When do you find it easiest to focus on just one task? When do you have the most energy, and when are there the fewest interruptions? Now that you have identified your prime time, the first thing you need to do is plan your day around it. You need to set it aside so you can use it to work on the most important things in your professional life and accomplish the things that really can make a difference. Then you need to figure out how to protect it. It's all too easy to allow routine activities and interruptions to intrude, and you need to be proactive about making sure that this does not happen. Now that you've worked on prioritizing and budgeting your time and tasks, let's discuss a few of the things that get in the way and eat up your time and distract you from your well-set plans. Have you ever found yourself overloaded and overwhelmed with work only to receive another assignment? Saying no at work from a request from your boss can be intimidating and something that you may simply not want to do. If your supervisor asks you to take on an urgent task, request help in prioritizing your workload or ask what should be given up to accomplish the new task. Lay out what you're working on, how long it's taking, and what you would have to delay or stop doing in order to take on the new task. If a coworker needs your time on an urgent task, take a look at your daily to-do list and your time budget and be honest about how much time you can really give. Suggest your own timetable for a time that is least inconvenient for you. If your time is limited, put a limit on your participation and encourage better planning for next time. In order to stay on task and reach your goals, you will benefit from learning how to overcome procrastination. Many of us struggle with procrastination at one time or another. Procrastination, the habit of putting tasks off to the last possible minute, can become a major problem in both your career and your personal life. Side effects include missed opportunities, frenzied work hours, stress, feelings of overwhelm, resentment, and guilt. Bottom line, procrastination is inactivity. Time spent procrastinating is time lost that can't be retrieved. To overcome procrastination, break large jobs down into smaller parts, then focus on the one step at a time. This is often referred to as chunking. Capitalize on your prime time. Do your biggest and or most difficult task first when you have the most energy. And after completed the biggest and most difficult task first, everything else will pale in comparison. Remember to give yourself deadlines and stick to them. Force yourself to jump in and face the unpleasant tasks head on. After all, they're not going away no matter how much you ignore them. Lastly, give yourself a small reward for completing each task. Interruptions in the workplace cannot be avoided, but their impact on your workday can be minimized. At times, we may have to handle emergencies and still stay on top of our tasks. When you encounter unexpected emergencies, spend only as much time as necessary. Sometimes the emergency may be over, but we spend a lot of time talking about it. As soon as the emergency has been resolved, return to your normal schedule, and when time permits, think about why the emergency occurred and what can be done to prevent it from happening in the future. Another type of unavoidable workplace distraction is the unscheduled visitor. How many times have you been in the middle of something important and suddenly there is someone at your door needing your attention and time? Set time limits with these unexpected visitors. Say something along the lines of, I'd love to have a longer discussion, but I only have 10 minutes. Try to resolve the issue on the spot and in the allotted time. And stand up to signal that you're done. This is a nonverbal signal that the conversation is nearing its end, and conclude the conversation firmly. And lastly, telephone calls, emails. These just can't be avoided for most of us, and I'm sure that they're a daily staple of your work life. We know that for some of you, part of your jobs is to read and respond to emails and phone calls almost on an immediate basis throughout the workday. But if you have some flexibility, we recommend that you schedule a time each day for making phone calls and preparing ahead of time for those phone calls. Gather any information that you may need during those phone calls and have it ready before you dial. If possible, check your email 2 to 3 times a day and prioritize your emails. Avoid responding to non-business correspondence and delete any unwanted junk mail. Another barrier to managing your time can be the demands of meetings. Unnecessary and productive meetings can take up a lot of your time and pull you away from your important work. So as to not end up in a meeting like this one in there, here are a few of the best practices to planning and running effective meetings. First, start and end on time. Make promptness a clear expectation. 2, create an agenda and distribute it beforehand. Third, discuss the topics only on the agenda and discourage any unrelated conversations. And 4, schedule a follow-up meeting if necessary. We hear from a lot of organizations that excessive paperwork can be a real time drain. A great strategy for managing those pesky papers is to follow what is known as the Ohio Principle. Ohio stands for Only Handle It Once. This principle recognizes that papers are often lost when the recipient receives them and places them somewhere, thinking that they'll be put in their proper place when there is more time. Under the Ohio Principle, upon receipt of the paper, the recipient will only handle it once by immediately placing the paper in its proper place. You will file it in its proper place, you will read it if it's of interest to you, you will route it and send it on its way to someone else to whom it may be of more use, and if it requires your attention, you will act on it. This is the Ohio Principle. Lastly, you want to maximize your time and leverage your resources, then you may also be willing to use many of the available technology platforms. They can certainly make your life easier. Technology can help you stay on task and improve your time management skills. We encourage you to sync your calendars and data across all of your devices, and we also encourage you to check out these useful apps and websites. Buddy Hive will help people buddy up and inspire each other and get stuff done, avoid procrastination. Rescue Time is simply a time budgeting website. My Hours is a time tracking website, and MyLifeOrganized.net is a to-do organizer. And remember, good time management skills have existed way before the time of computers and the internet. So if technology is simply not your thing, rely on the other skills that we have discussed today. As we wrap up our webinar, here are a few key points to remember. Create SMART goals, prioritize your tasks, and plan your time. Find your prime time and plan your day around it. Procrastination is an activity that leads to missed opportunities. Overcome it by chunking. Interruptions in the workplace cannot be avoided, but by setting limits, their impact on your workday can be minimized. Unnecessary and unproductive meetings can take up a lot of your time and pull you away from important work. Do your part by preparing or sticking to the agenda at hand. Lastly, if you're comfortable embracing technology, keep in mind that it can help you stay on task and improve your time management skills. I would like to remind you that Coastline EAP is always available to help you manage your work-life challenges. Whether it's time management or something else, please note that your phone call is always private and confidential, and our services are for you and for your family members. Thank you for joining today's webinar. If you have any questions or we can be of any further assistance, please don't hesitate to contact us. Have a wonderful day.